Good evening, and welcome to the Sandwich School Committee meeting of, what is today? August 28th, 2024. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. The first item on the agenda is public forum. Does anybody wish to be heard at public forum? I see nobody coming forward, so we will close the public forum. The first item is a field trip request, student trip to Finland in April of 2025. Dr. Quinn.
Good evening. Thank you, Madam Chair. I come to you this evening seeking approval for the continuation of our transatlantic classroom partnership. We are scheduled to send approximately 12 students to Hämeenlinna, Finland from April 4th through the 12th of 2025. The trip is the second half of the exchange with our Finland students who are going to be arriving here at the end of September. The trip will be, we'll spend bookend days in Helsinki on the travel ends, and then spend the remainder of the time in Hämeenlinna and the surrounding areas. Students will spend time in the school, the Curlean Upper School in Hämeenlinna, mostly for the half of the day, and then spend the afternoon exploring different areas throughout the town. As you saw in the packet, we solicited bids from numerous, I think it was 7 in total, organizations to provide the travel services. Only 2 came forward, and the best approach is going through the Kaleidoscope Adventures, which is also the travel company that will be supporting the Ireland trip. The structure of the payment right now, and this is a little bit subject to fluctuation because of the cost of airfare, and hotels are not locked in until it's entirely locked in. We're keeping within the budget of $2,500, which we told families from the outset back in February. 1,900 of that will be covering the airfare, hotel, transportation from Helsinki and back. 600 we are budgeting for what is essentially a prepaid debit card that would allow students to eat meals when they're not with the host families, and for several excursions. And the benefit of that is that there's no exchange, they don't have to exchange money, and then anything that's left over can come back to the family at the end of it. As you saw in the packet, where there have been several fundraising endeavors to try to defray the costs, we expect to be able to come in under that $2,500. So we've already secured money through our Green Schools competition. The Finnish American Society has made a donation. We did try to write a federal grant to pay for it. Unfortunately, that was not approved, but we had a really nice conversation with the embassy that resulted in an invitation to the embassy while we're there. So we're just seeking your approval. With your approval, we'll continue with a family meeting next week to lay out some more of the specifics, both for the Finnish visit and the travel as well.
Can I have a motion to approve, and then we can move into,
When do we discuss?
we will, after the motion's on the floor, then we will discuss. So motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve the trip, student trip to Finland as presented both previously and tonight.
Do I have a second?
Second.
By Christine. Discussion.
Question. Are they going to be, the embassy's in Helsinki, isn't it? So where are they, is the school they're going to going to be in Helsinki?
No, the school they're going to is in Hämeenlinna, so when we would potentially visit the embassy would be on the Friday before we leave. Friday before we leave on the 11th. They fly out of Helsinki on the morning of the 12th, which is a Saturday.
So that'll be on their way.
Yes, on the way
How
home.
far is the school from Helsinki?
And about an hour train ride.
Oh, that's not bad. That's not
Yes.
not bad at all. And so you're going with the Kaleidoscope, the company Kaleidoscope?
Yes, and we did reach out to EF. Unfortunately, they were not interested in this type of work. What typically happens is they want to add a tour guide to this type
Right,
of
they
package.
do, right.
We did receive a bid with a tour guide, which was, I think, $1,500 to $2,000 more expensive per student.
They won't need a tour, they're gonna be in a school, right?
Correct.
They won't really
Yes.
need it,
We have hosts, so yes, you're 100% correct.
because I did go to Helsinki with EF, and it was fine, but a school's a different situation. All right, thank you.
Any other discussion, Danielle?
Just a quick question. The kids, our students, when they travel there, they'll be staying with host families. Will it be one student from Sandwich per host family? Will we have like 2 kids per host family?
We anticipated it's one per host family. Under certain circumstances, if a student would feel comfortable staying with a peer and they can accommodate that, that would be something that we would entertain.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Bert?
The kids that are coming here, they're gonna be in school during the day with the kid?
Yeah, so it's going to be a half-day type model where they'll spend the mornings in the school. As you may have seen in the packet too, we have 2 events that I just want to put on your radar. On the 29th at 4 o'clock, we're going to have a welcome cookout, like an American experience for the Finnish students. That's where families will pick up the Finnish students. And then on, I believe it's the Thursday, the 3rd of October, we're going to have our student showcase of the work that they've been collaborating on over the last 6 months or so.
Is language gonna be an issue?
No, they all speak English. I think what they have reported as a challenge is our students report that the Finnish students feel that we're really excellent with small talk, and that's something that they are not necessarily accustomed
Excellent with,
to. Small talk. Hey, how you doing? How's
small
everything
talk.
going? Yeah. So I think while they'll be able to understand, I think it's one of those, it's more of like a cultural piece that might be a little bit more of a challenge.
Any other discussion?
You may not appreciate the current definition of the word sleigh. We'll just leave it at that. How many kids are planning on going?
So right now, it's going to be open to 15 students. Based on initial feedback that we've received due to schedule and interest, 12 have at least initially indicated interest in traveling. Where we may have a caveat, just to be clear with the committee, is that the pricing model is based off of 12 students going. If that gets reduced for any number of reasons, that might fluctuate the price a little bit.
And just to comment about chaperones?
Yes. We have 2 confirmed chaperones at this point, Melissa Kestenbaum and Renee Fidala. We also have been working on backup chaperones as well. So Lori St. Pierre has expressed interest, as has Nancy Horwood, and I think there's we're taking a waiting list after that seems to be an appealing opportunity for teachers.
Any other discussion? We're ready for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. It looks like 7 yes, no no's, and no abstentions. It passes.
Thank you very much for your continued support.
This is exciting, and it reminds me of some of the things that my kids were involved with when we had exchanges within the high school. It's exciting. All right, next up. Review and act on the meeting minutes, the regular business meeting minutes of August 14th, 24th. Do I have a motion?
I move that we approve the regular business meeting minutes of our meeting dated 14 August 2024.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Looks like 7, unanimous. Am I correct? Okay. Executive session minutes dated August 14th, 2024.
I move that we approve the minutes of our executive session dated August 14th, 2024.
Can I have a second? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 7 yes, no 0, no abstentions. And if you could pass those this way, we will turn them back in. All right, correspondence and announcements. I do not have any correspondence. correspondence or announcements. Next up,
I do have a couple quick announcements. This might be under liaison, but I'll get it out early while we have a captive attention. A few notes from the PTSA. The membership drive is ongoing right now for the Sandwich Middle High School PTSA. The first meeting is Tuesday, September 10th at 7 p.m. in the Middle High School Library. All are welcome. And what people are really going to care about, the Sandwich Community Halloween Festival is scheduled for October 25th and 26th. This is a very large fundraiser for the junior and senior classes, who are also the event's primary volunteers. Advanced ticket sales open to the Sandwich school community at 8 a.m. on September 12th. So keep an eye out. I'm sure it'll be in all the various principal send home announcements and things like that, and plus from the superintendent, which will include the purchase link. It is, as always, it is expected to sell out very quickly.
and it does.
And it does, yeah.
Okay, superintendent's report.
So good evening, everybody. The first thing on my report, I'm really pleased to introduce to all of you two outstanding educators that are now joining our district as members of our district leadership team. First, if I could call her up, Dr. Mary Kate Stevens, who is the brand new assistant principal of the Oak Ridge School. Dr. Stevens is a experienced educator who has spent her career in the Falmouth Public Schools, first as a fourth grade teacher at the Mullenhall Elementary School, and then later, over the last 2.5 years, in central office as a teaching and learning specialist for the district. In that capacity, she was responsible for organizing and upgrading the curriculum across all content areas, particularly at the elementary level. She was also responsible for the district's new hire and induction and mentoring program, and also many of the professional development offerings. She does have her bachelor's degree from Northeastern University, her master's degree in special education and moderate disabilities, and her doctorate in curriculum, teaching, learning, and leadership from Northeastern University. Probably most of all, she is a sandwich mom to 2 young daughters. So one of the things, the theme you'll see of meeting 2 of our folks, we really, sometimes, you know, the best that you have is in your own community, in your own backyard, and to say the least, Mary Kate fits that bill. So I don't know if you want to just say a couple words, but we are absolutely delighted to have you at Oak Ridge.
Thank you so much. I'm really thrilled to meet all of you and be here this evening. Thank you, Joe, for introducing me. And like he said, I've been in the community for about 3 years now, and I have 2 little girls who I will be very proud to send to the Sandwich schools. And honestly, every meeting I have left in the past few weeks, I have left with a smile on my face, and I truly mean that. I'm thrilled to be a part of this community, and thank you for the warm welcome.
Welcome.
So the second person I want to introduce to you, very much in the same vein as Mary Kate, somebody who kind of is not a stranger to us, and I almost universally heard positive things about Josh, and very much from the perspective as being a sandwich dad, so to speak. But I'd like to introduce, if you could come up, Mr. Josh Clarkin. Josh is the brand new assistant principal at Sandwich Middle High School. Correct me if I'm wrong, Josh, but I think this is your 20th year in our business. You're getting up there, my friend.
Yes, year 20.
But Josh has a very rich background and experience as a school counselor. Started about 20 years ago as a school counselor in the Sharon Public Schools at Sharon Middle School, and then came much closer to home where he spent the last 19 years at Dennis Yarmouth Regional High School as a school guidance counselor but then over the last 7 years as an assistant principal. Josh comes to us with just a whole wealth of background and experience and expertise in the many complex things that a assistant principal does. In his role at DY, he oversaw the ALP, or the Alternative Learning Program. He did all of the logistical pieces around duties, around maintenance requests, around organizing safety drills, things like that, and of course dealt with student discipline and student management. But I think the key piece, and if you talk to Josh, is just his demeanor of just calm and in that role being able to sometimes de-escalate challenging situations. Josh does hold his bachelor's in psychology and sociology from the UMass Boston. He also holds, from UMass Boston, a master's in school counseling, along with his CAGs in school administration from American International College. Just like Mary Kate, he lives within the community. He has 3 daughters, 2 of whom have already graduated from Sandwich High School, and your baby is now freshman?
Going to be a sophomore.
Sophomore. So welcome, Josh. We are also delighted to have you.
Thanks so much. Don't know what to say to follow that. Thank you for the kind words. Much appreciated. I'm thrilled to be assistant principal at the high school. It's been great being with Jeannie and the team and meeting all the folks at the high school. Been rather overwhelming over the past few days, just seeing so many faces that I've seen, whether it's been at parent-teacher conferences or at sporting events for my children over the years, and it's been wonderful. It's been really special. It feels like a great fit already, and I'm just super thrilled to be here. My wife and I have lived in Sandwich for 25 years, and as Joe said, we have 3 daughters, and they've had amazing experiences in the Sandwich Public Schools. And I'm not just saying that because I'm here in front of you guys. They've legitimately had great experiences and have gone on to do great things. And Sadie's still there at the high school, and she's having a great experience. So thank you so much for this opportunity. I'm really thrilled.
Welcome.
Great.
How does she feel about having Dad as the assistant principal?
What's that? Well, that's the big question, right? I was like, you got to be on your best behavior this year. No, she's pretty cool with it right now. So
You've divested yourself of all your green and white Dolphin swag?
Yeah, I've been wearing it for painting recently, so I've kind of, it's gone to the at-home work attire.
You can help Joe paint his house with your
Right,
swag.
right.
I have to say, I have some friends that teach in DY, and they said, I recently saw them, and they said, wow, Sandwich is so lucky that you have Josh Clark in. They were very sad to see him go. So we're very lucky to have both of you here.
Thank you, Danielle.
Welcome aboard.
The commute's a lot better, too, right?
Thank you, Josh. Thank you, Mary Kay. So the second piece that I have, and I believe we did this last school year as well, summer is a super, super busy time of year, and I think if there was something that was the theme of this meeting, with our dynamic duo of Jen Kirk and Dave Quinn, the school never stops as far as our offerings for students, but also our offerings for staff with regard to professional development. And then we'll talk a little bit later with Chris George, who's here to talk about some of the building projects that occurred. So Jen and Dave, if you could come up to talk first about, what do we want to do, PD first?
Thank you. So I think Dr. Maruschek put it best with the school never sleeps. We had a really busy summer. This is a scene from our 2-day Deeper Learning Institute. So if we go to the next slide. I think, that must be the wrong presentation. Let me send that. That was from last year's.
Oh, I'm sorry, Dave. emailing it to me?
Yeah, I'm going to send this right over to you.
Okay.
It's going to be awesome. I promise. It's going to be like well worth the wait. So I think the approach in trying to build upon the great work of my predecessor, Maureen Wickland, offered a lot of things during the summer. So I knew coming in that there was it was a priority for the district to continue to build those offerings, but also as an aspect of listening to teachers in terms of what their needs were and some of the gaps that we could fill. You all had access to the document that we put forward in terms of the offerings. One big shift that we put forward was that we reached out to Bridgewater State, Fitchburg State, and a lot of the local universities to see what their online offerings were, and gave teachers a full catalog of what those classes would look like. And so we just wanted to make sure that they were also not only getting professional development during the summer, but also had access to advance their careers as well. But I think one thing that was personally meaningful to me was the Institute with Dr. McLeod. This is a continuation of our deeper learning work that you heard quite a bit about from me, and you will continue to hear quite a bit about, which started with just 5 teachers from across the district. They had such a positive experience, they wanted Dr. McLeod to come back. He is a ISTE and NASSP fellow, so he works with teachers and administrators from across the country. He went from Sandwich out to Oregon. And just to recap what deeper learning is, deeper learning sits at the intersection of mastery of the grade level skills and content, but also allowing opportunities for students to connect their personal identity to what they're learning and giving them the avenue for creativity. So we want that to be a hallmark of teaching and learning in Sandwich. The way that we do that is through 4 shifts, looking through our instruction through 4 potential lenses. So high-level thinking, so who's doing the cognitive lift? Student agency, do they have opportunities to explore areas of interest that are meaningful to them? Is the work authentic? Does it reflect work of people who have careers or passions outside of school? And then technology infusion, just recognizing that technology is essential to what it is that we're doing. We also tried to take an applied approach where the teachers were not just learning about deeper learning, they were learning about, they were then applying those 4 shifts to existing lesson structures collaboratively with coaches and colleagues to carry into the next school year. We believe that the best PD is ongoing PD, so we'll have ongoing sessions with Dr. McLeod virtually throughout the course of the year. Also pleased to share that we had 4 different districts join us in the PD. So Carver, Mendon, Upton, and Norton all sent representatives. We also did a 6-week book study featuring Ron Richard, who was from Harvard's Project Zero, Cultures of Thinking and Action. Those reflect 10 kind of principles that teachers could use to leverage, again, to create the classroom environment that's not only welcoming, but is inviting students to really engage and wrestle with the content, and teachers thinking of themselves as modeling as learners. So as Dr. Marushek talks about belonging and creating those types of environment, we felt like this book really dovetailed. What's nice about the book is that it not only pushes towards the philosophical, but has concrete examples and then talks about ways that teachers can collect data on these practices. So it's a really comprehensive book. Learning is not just for educators. We as leaders wanted to spend some time engaged in learning, so we were invited to the Applied Learning Leader Summit through our partnership with the 1-8 Foundation, who has infused several tens of thousands of dollars into our district. We went with Ginger Lavelle, Dr. Marushek, Mr. Aycock, and Mrs. Nelson as a continuation of our work with Innovation Career Pathways and Project Lead the Way. The 5 features of what they call is applied learning, very similar to deeper learning. Again, authentic problems, collaboration, providing opportunities to iterate. So they're all shared principles between deeper learning and applied learning, just different language. But it speaks to the type of learning experience we want for students. Some of the focal areas that we engaged with while we were there is just what does AI look like in the modern classroom? How are we building better professional learning, driven through research and not necessarily through some education myths that we continue to float around? Focal area for the high school, student discourse. So Mrs. Nelson and Mr. Aycock went to sessions on that. Developing a instructional vision for applied learning, focused on coaching and different areas of practice there. And then what's most exciting, as you can see in the top right, clean energy innovation pathway is one area that we're exploring. So you can see Dr. Bruschek and I trying to put together a model of a wind turbine and trying to see if we could design the blades, which stayed in the room and not in Cape Cod Bay.
Spoiler alert, it didn't go well.
It didn't go well, but we tried our best, and it was a short amount of time. But again, it was nice to be able to engage in hands-on learning that would mirror what we would do with students. And we will be continuing our work with the 1-8 Foundation. We are scheduled to travel to Philadelphia with them later on this fall through a grant-funded project. And then finally, our old staples, Skillful Teacher, Responsive Classroom. Teachers are attending that. This year we had a partnership with Plymouth Public Schools where our teachers attended Skillful Teacher. Several teachers either went to Foxborough or took Responsive Classroom online, so that work continues. And then finally, just another kind of recent and upcoming professional learning. Teachers attended landmark outreach one-day seminars. We had several opportunities to partner with Facing History and ourselves. We had them in for the kickoff of our Schools Where We Belong seminar today. iReady PD continues, particularly as we go into the implementation years for our K2 and 3 students. Panorama is going to be another focal point at the middle high school, and then several of our teachers attended events with Dr. Allison Mello as they continue to build capacity in math workshop and other similar practices. So busy summer around here, both in the buildings and across the region.
So while our staff was obviously quite busy this summer, several hundred of our students were as well. We were fortunate to be able to offer 4 different programs this summer. I think you're probably familiar with the programs, but for those that may not be, we've been offering summer scholars since the summer of 2021, I believe we started, as a pandemic recovery effort. And that is a program that we run out of Sandwich Middle High School. I do want to just express appreciation to the high school administration and certainly to the facilities department for working around us in the summer. They're all trying to get a lot of things done, and we have several hundred kids in the building. So it's a team effort. So thank you to Chris and your team. But the Summer Scholars Program, we target students entering 1st grade through entering 9th grade, and we offer some academic services in the area of reading and math, and we also offer specials in the areas of PE, art, and nature explorers. We have students who have extended school year services outside of Summer Scholars. Some of our extended school year services, based upon a child's IEP, might be addressed in the Summer Scholars program, but if it's a more individualized need, we have several students who have small group instruction or a service such as OT, PT, speech and language, things of that nature. And we love our Ride the Wave into Kindergarten program. We welcome our newest Sandwich students. We invite students that have attended our preschool programs through the School of Early Learning, and we had, I want to say our number was 77 of our incoming kindergartners, which is about 50% of our kindergarten class. Spent a week, the first week of August, at Forestdale, getting to know the school and getting familiar with kindergarten routines, and it's a great little introduction to their brand new school. And then we have the Acceleration Academy as well, which we just wrapped up. Gosh, was that last week we finished? So that's a 1-week program, as you all have heard before, is funded by a DESE grant. And I maybe jumped into my details too early, but just to give you an idea of our population at Summer Scholars, this summer we had 166 students attend. And this has, again, been a program that we've been offering with ESSER 3 funds since we received those from pandemic recovery. And then our extended school year, and that's always been part of the district budget. And those are, again, specific services determined by an individual student's IEP team. and we had 66 students. Again, many of our students with ESY services were serviced in summer scholars. We had 66 additional students. And I was close. I said 77. We had 79 of our incoming kindergartners. And if you ever get a chance to peek in on the Ride the Wave program, it's just adorable. Them coming into school very wide-eyed and excited, and we get great feedback from families and the kids. They really, really, really love the program, and we're really fortunate that it's fully staffed by Forestdale teachers and ESPs, so they have familiar faces when they come into Forestdale on the first day of school. And again, our Acceleration Academy, this year we had 71 students last week, which I think is a real credit to our students and families that they are excited to come to school at the end of August. We also had an academy over April vacation. We had 30 students attend at that point in time. The Acceleration Academies they have a very strong academic focus. So the special at Acceleration is a STEAM special. So we are really fortunate we had our STEAM lab teacher, Mrs. Gattoni from Oak Ridge, and our science coach, Mrs. Skirvin, also from Oak Ridge, teaching specials. Super hands-on engineering projects, and the kids absolutely love that special. And then the kids break into either a reading group for the rest of the day or a math group, and that's actually, we invite students to a specific content area based on recommended need. So overall, we're really trying to offer these programs to students that have received interventions during the school year, so that we're really trying to prevent summer slide as much as possible, and to maintain those skills that our students have gained over the course of the previous school year. And then, of course, the extended school year services from IEPs. We do offer co-taught classrooms at Summer Scholars, so that if a student is attending Summer Scholars because it's an extended school year service, they are placed into a co-taught classroom with a general education teacher and a special education teacher at each grade level. And then, of course, our new kindergartners, as I mentioned before.
Does anybody have any questions for either Jen or Dave?
Go ahead, Christine.
For Jen, that summer programming is obviously fantastic for students, and it looks like about 400 kids participated, which is
close to, I think maybe somewhere around 350, I think, yes.
And 3 of those 4 programs are grant funded. What is the possibility, and where are we in terms of being able to continue that?
Right. So the Acceleration Academy, that will we will continue to apply as long as DESE continues to offer the grant application. You never really know, but as long as they continue offering it, we will continue pursuing that funding. I would not, and if DESE does not offer the funding, I would not anticipate that we'd be able to continue that specific program. The Summer Scholars and Ride the Wave into kindergarten programs, that is definitely a goal of our district, that we would love to maintain those programs. However, as we all are aware, the ESSER 3 funding is expiring on September 30th. So I do think that it's appropriate to have some conversation around how we can continue those programs and continue offering those to students and families. The ESY services, of course, will always continue.
That's a great question, Christine, and I'm glad you asked that. And today's only August 28th, but once we get into the joy of January and those weekly budget meetings, I ask that you kind of lock that in somewhere in your brain in thinking about this conversation about ESSER 3 drying up, but also think about Jeannie's last couple presentations, the student handbook, and talking about offering summer school, particularly for 7th and 8th grade students that fail one of their major courses. This is, I think, as we go through the FY26 budget cycle, and knowing that ESSER 3 is drying up. And please correct me if I'm wrong, I think the delta would be something in the ballpark of around 64,000, Jen?
Correct, yes, to maintain the Ride the Wave into Kindergarten program and the Summer Scholars program at the same level. This year's expenditures were just under $65,000.
So, in my opinion, that is really, really smart money, and in the context of a $40 million operational budget, that's short money. So I think thinking about these programs, and I think it's commendable. You know, Jen has done an outstanding job in leading these programs and being super aggressive, particularly going after these DESI grants for the Acceleration Academy. I mean, we kind of have a running gag, like they will post it, and it's like, oh, by the way, the application's due in 72 hours kind of thing. And she has been consistently successful in achieving it. So I do think, don't be surprised come January here at the table, we will be seeking funding to maintain this at a minimum and quite possibly expand what we're doing.
2 other questions on that for me. Sorry, unless you want to go around. Is it primarily staffed with Sandwich staff, or do you draw from other districts?
We've been able to fully staff with our Sandwich teachers and ESPs.
That's excellent. And my last question is, I'm sure at some point you'll have some data for us in terms of how this impacts student learning.
Yes, so we do not we have 12 days of Summer Scholars, and Ride the Wave, we definitely don't assess it at Ride the Wave. Welcome to to kindergarten, here's a test. But we recommend students for the Summer Scholars program based upon data from the school year, and then we do get baseline assessments of all of our students in September, so I will have that data for you at a later date at the end of September.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Bert?
Thanks. One for each. On this deeper learning thing, what would deeper learning be in math, for example, compared to regular learning?
So for deeper learning, what that might look like in math, I'll preface this by saying it's probably the most difficult subject. If you look at some of the...
I take another subject.
Sure, but I'll go with math just for the sake of example. You would design a project, so if you're teaching ratios, proportions, percentages, that you would design a project where students would be exploring the cost of college, mortgage, interest rates, and then calculating out what they would need in terms of a job to be able to sustain the car that they were looking for, the home that they were looking for. They would do research on, through like the career clusters, maybe using a tool like Naviance to look at the different careers within their industries, what would be the expected education background, what would the cost of the schooling be, and they would dive into that. Another example would be taking a look, let's just take our basketball court project, where they would come out, where they would conduct the measurements for the court, the cost of materials, scope out what it would look like for the design pieces. They might be able to design what the court would look like, working with a graphic designer. They might work with a construction company to understand like all of the materials that would go into it, and then put forward a presentation. Or maybe it would be part of the civics project, where they would come forward and make a proposal, well-researched proposal to this body or one other to create some sort of change.
All right, I got that. That's a good explanation. The other, when Principal Nelson was here, she talked about when kids didn't do well and weren't going to pass, that they would, Dr. Maruschek mentioned this, be involved in a summer program. Did you do a summer program this year?
So we do offer Summer Scholars for students up through our rising 9th graders. Summer Scholars does not encompass rising 10th, 11th, or 12th graders because they would need a credit recovery as opposed to at 7th and 8th grade. You're not earning credits. It's become a new school policy. So they would still be eligible for Summer Scholars.
Did you have any this year, though?
We did have some 7th and 8th and entering 9th graders this year.
Who would need that to move on?
I receive recommendations from the school counselor and the 7th and 8th grade teams, and then we invite those students. I don't believe that at the point in time at the end of the school year that portion of the handbook had been officially adopted. I know that it has been since then, so I would assume that will be the policy for next summer. But we did have a small group of 7th, 8th, and 9th graders. You definitely see trends in the size of the groups and the number of students that register. We get a lot more younger students than we do older students. Being the parent of 2 teenagers, I can tell you it's a big lift to convince them to go to school in the summer, so I'm sure that's part of it.
What percentage of the students in the Scholars Program they're in good academic standing, they're passing, but they need or want enrichment in depth versus those who might have come in failing a course? Can you manage all of that in the same?
Oh, I'm confident we could manage that, yes. We invite students who were recommended for academic support. We do sometimes have students who weren't recommended as having any need for academic support. We've tried to be very flexible and accommodating. If a family has multiple children in the district and one child gets invited, oftentimes I'll receive a call or an email from parents saying, oh, it'd be a lot easier on my 3rd grader if my 4th grader was coming along too, or something along those lines. Word of mouth, honestly, I get calls and emails saying, oh, I heard my neighbor's child is going, can my child go? Or they'd love to go. And as long as we have space, and to this point we have, we really do try and accommodate that. That could be a consideration in the future as we're no longer benefiting from ESSER 3 funding. We might have to be more, I don't know if rigid is the correct word, but we might have to have stricter guidelines, I suppose.
Any other comment, question on this?
Just one comment for Dave. I sent him a personal email just to congratulate him and thank him for the depth of professional development offered to staff. It's pretty unique, and it really seems as though what is offered for staff for professional development throughout the year as well as the summer really touches just about every type of educator you might have in the building. So I think it's
Not just what's it offered, the participation rate is so high, people giving up valuable summer time to continue their learning. It's a tribute to the staff, the instruction, the content, and good job. Thank you, both.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So one more thing in my update, and per our policy IHGH, which kind of talks about our policies and procedures with regard to home instruction, it is also kind of presenting where we are from a data perspective each year as far as families within our community who opt for home instruction. So things still trickle in, but I think this is a good snapshot of where we are with regard to the number of approved homeschool plans. I realize it goes through central office. Actually, Dave is the point person for kind of taking in the request for home instruction. That has to be done and have an annually approved plan. So as of Monday, we have 57 students within our community that parents or guardians are providing home instruction. As you can see, that second chart that has the grade distribution, it's not surprising that it's generally throughout the elementary and middle school grades. Usually it starts to tailor off for the high school grades over concern of college or some type of post-secondary instruction and preparation for that. But I think you can kind of see the general trend of tailing off a little bit. You can see during the height of the pandemic years of 2021 and then 21-22, how it really spiked. I think that's indicative of any district. And right now we're kind of in that 60 or so ballpark. So that's the data. Does anybody have any questions on any of that? Yes.
Just a quick question about compliance. Overall, do you get good compliance from the families providing the homeschool? Have you ever had to step in and say, hey, what's going on here? Or
By compliance, you mean submission of
Submission
home
and-
instruction plans
they have to submit plans and then progress reports, is that
and
correct?
final assessment or progress, yeah.
Okay.
The Commonwealth of Massachusetts has given families a wide range of latitude in terms of what they put forward for plans and how they report out. It is an active process to ensure that we are getting plans in, and it's also ongoing. Some families are a little bit more forthcoming with information and reporting, and so it's an endeavor.
It's a nice way to put it. Okay. So our hands are kind of tied. We have to take what the parents are submitting to us and with good faith. And
Within reason, there are several homeschool associations that provide them with templates that are in compliance with the law. I do typically ask for more of the curriculum resources that they're using, just so not just I have it, but they've thought about it. And while we don't point them towards any specific resource, we just try to share and point them in the direction. Because, just within the last week, we've had several students who have decided to come back to Sandwich Public Schools.
Oh, good.
I think we just want to make sure that transition is smooth as possible.
Has it been our experience that students on the whole transitioning back to middle school or high school are where they need to be or can get to where they need to be by the end of their experience?
I am too new to this role to be able to speak confidently on that. I'd have to speak directly to more educators, and it's a very small sample size. So I don't know if it would be indicative of any sort of trend, but it's a good question nevertheless.
Do you have any data to speak to how many students are homeschooled throughout their time in Sandwich Public Schools versus students who are leaving the Sandwich Public Schools midway through to be homeschooled? And if so, like what grade point that tends to happen at?
So data on that, you could cull together data. It would be a little bit of an adventure. Generally speaking, it is atypical for families to leave to go homeschooling. There's usually some sort of family concern or that causes that. A lot of the times it's families who are coming in, being close to a military base. Sometimes it's more consistent to keep it at home. Sometimes it's just religious or cultural values that they wanted to do homeschooling. And you can kind of see that with the curriculum resources that they pick. But there's not necessarily, I could generate that data. It's just, no, again, having done this 1 year, not anything discernible.
Anything else? Kevin?
Going back to the colleague asked about compliance, what is our duty? They have to submit the plans, things like that. You feel like somebody's not complying. Is that a report to DESE? What is Sandwich Public Schools' responsibility there, and how does that process work?
I think it would go through the Child Protective Services type avenue. I haven't reached that point yet.
That's good to know, first and foremost.
So, but again, it is a little bit of trying to herd cats. It feels like it's at some point.
And something that's important to realize, and I had the Dave role in my previous district in formally approving the plans. As the school committee, you are responsible for the education of homeschooled children. They are our kids. And this was well over 10 years ago. I had an interesting experience where I had a school committee member who felt very passionately about ensuring that it was a credible process and that home instruction plans were credible, that they were solid, that they were research-based, and so on. And I think, as Dave alluded to, it's a very fine balancing act as far as your role as a school committee to ensure fidelity versus parental rights. And In my previous district, we had school committee meetings in a room much smaller than this, that during one meeting following a policy subcommittee meeting, we had well over 100 homeschool parents and their children to kind of scrutinize what we were doing with regard to the policy. I think what you do is, and I know Dave does this, you operate in good faith. You keep those lines of communication open with our families. And I would say overwhelmingly, and sometimes very frequently, I get direct correspondence and solicitation from our home school families. They're operating out of good faith as well. And they want to keep that relationship and those lines of communication open as well.
Yeah, I was not trying to be negative, but it goes to what you just said. There is that responsibility piece, and I was curious how that worked. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Thank you, Dr. Quinn. Okay, old business. We sorely need a representative to the Cape Cod Collaborative. You've had a while to consider whether that might be something you would like to do. Is anybody interested in taking on the collaborative liaison role?
It involves board meetings, which are 5:30 on Wednesdays. It is, and I can't recall which Wednesday. I think it's the something Wednesday of the month. I'll get that for you. And they're all virtual. You have the option to attend them in person as well. Some of them I was able to attend a portion of it before this meeting started.
Are there attendance requirements?
So you're not allowed to vote if you miss a certain number of meetings in a row. It never was several consecutive meetings in a row, so we didn't lose any voting privileges this year, but I know we have in the past.
So if anybody interested, what do we do if no one's interested?
Just won't work with my schedule.
No, don't
So the
feel
issue at
obligated, I'm
hand
just asking.
will be, obviously, the Cape Cod Collaborative is made up of all of the districts on the Cape and the islands. If there is not a representative, then Sandwich will not have any representation at the table. My comparable, who is Paul Hilton, he's the executive director, kind of like the superintendent of the collaborative. He is leaving. He's retiring as of something like October 10th or so, in that ballpark. So that's probably the major piece that's pending before the board of directors right now. The Cape Cod Collaborative is important to us in the sense that they do offer special education programming for some of our students, some other related services for some of our students, and also some professional development offerings. I think it is important that we have somebody step up so that at least Sandwich does have a voice at the table, so to speak.
If there's no one who would like to do that, I will be the liaison with the understanding that attendance might be spotty. So we need a vote. All those in favor of,
We need a motion first.
oh, that's true.
I
right.
nominate
Thank you,
Sue Miller.
Thank you. Do we have a
for the
second?
role.
I'll second that.
Any discussion?
You can't vote against it.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
It is unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sue.
With our deep appreciation, yes.
It's only because
Much
negotiations is over, so.
Much
Sue,
appreciation.
if it does make sense to redistribute something else for equity, I'm happy to take on something.
Well,
Let me know.
it'll be fine.
Thank you.
Thank
Too
you.
bad we couldn't kind of share the wealth of it, and we
But
have to
we're
have
all
one
in
meeting.
this
Yeah.
same schedule
I know.
controversy, so it might as well only affect one.
Christine, correct me if I'm wrong, there are some communities that have more than one representative, correct, on the board? It's a fairly large board.
Yeah, there's a representative from every town. I don't know if there's,
It's every town, okay?
yeah, every town has one.
Okay.
maybe it can be something that gets revisited, like if my work schedule changed and I could do it, I would.
Well, if there's a
prefer at some
change,
point in time, or
if there's a change in leadership, maybe the board would consider a change of meeting date, too.
Exactly.
That might be desirable. Off the Wednesday, Tuesday, whatever, I don't know when committee meetings. Okay, so moving along. We had on our agenda our community outreach and kind of the thumbnail sketch. Although we are very, and I am sincerely eager and excited about this process, we want to make sure that we have the best resources and outreach to support this. And Joe is still working on finding us able facilitator or facilitators. So can I have a motion to postpone this until?
You don't
Joe
even
has
need
some-
that, because
Yeah, just.
You don't?
it'll be
Okay.
tabled and,
table it.
for our next meeting on September 11th.
Right, so we
We'll
don't
have
need a
some more
formal motion to table and then take it off the table? Okay, we will do that. Other topics not reasonably anticipated by the chair? I see none. New business, and this is one of the highlights of the evening, the summer facilities capital projects update, Mr. George.
So Chris, if you could come up.
Good-looking air handler.
I like this in the sense that hopefully this is stuff that is very understandable, and I kind of like the show and tell aspect of this that people can kind of understand. So recall, I think there's really two big buckets here. There is the spring of 2022 debt exclusion, which was a bond for $13 million. That obviously the lead that we might have spent a couple minutes last year talking about the playground projects, but realized there was a lot of other substantive work. And then there's also the second bucket that as we went through the FY25 budget cycle, we talked about getting additional funding, and I think it was roughly $1 million from the town for capital expenditures. So it's good to see those things that were ideas actually come to fruition. So with regard to the debt exclusion, really this was kind of the year of the summer of the roof. It wasn't uncommon to see cranes near all three schools. So at all three schools, we've completed the roof and the building envelope projects, specifically some replacement of shingles, expansion joints, a lot of flashing. But probably if you go to Oak Ridge or Forestdale, the thing that would be the most noticeable were the replacement of the four cupolas. Cupolas? Cupolas? Cupola. I always mispronounce that word. Annoying. Something big too, and it is, I don't know if my picture in the upper left-hand corner does it justice, but the three enormous HVAC roof units at the high school have been replaced. You can kind of see, compare and contrast. The one on the left is roughly from like 1999, the one that's rusted, versus the brand new one to the right. It was pretty significant replacing those cupolas for the simple reason that they very much were leaking like sieves. So that's huge. Something that's probably the major piece that we have still pending, and I know Chris has spoken about this, is going out to bid a third time for the Forestdale and Oak Ridge HVAC project along with the boilers. As he's talked about, we've kind of tried it in a couple different ways, separating out the two schools or putting it together. I think the strategy will be putting it together once again, Chris?
We haven't really decided that yet. I think possibly trying to do it separate may be the easier way, because, I don't know, we're trying everything we can. Maybe we got to figure that out. I got to sit with the engineer and see what we're going to do. Try and, I don't know, coax people to try and come to work here to do these projects. I think we've financially are in the right ballpark with the figures. So it's just getting bidders. If you bid earlier in the fall too, you have a better pool of bidders before January when they try and line up all their work. So if we get them in November, October, we're thinking we have a better pool.
So then, thinking about what we talked about as far as the, as we went through the budget cycle last year, and how we were going to spend that allocation. If you recall, I showed you that very sad video of 7 of our guys trying to open and shut the high school bleachers. As you can see, go figure, we actually have the bleachers closed, and they're actually flush with the wall. That has been completely repaired as far as the mechanics of it. As we talked about, we wanted to prioritize safety, so we have in all 3 schools significant upgrades to our security camera and also our entry key fob security system, where our cameras are now have digital access, remote access with far, far better coverage. And something else that I really want to commend Chris and also Michelle. A lot of significant work has been done, and a lot of it was done this summer completely free of charge through Rise Engineering in conjunction with the Cape Compact to convert our lighting, all of our interior lighting, to much more energy efficient lighting, LED lighting. So that's huge, and hopefully we will see the benefits of that. As we also talked about, we have started the process of replacing that very, very old, very, very disgusting carpeting in our elementary schools with vinyl floor tiling. You see an example of a couple 4th grade classrooms at Oak Ridge. We also talked about a certain allocation going for new student furniture. So you could see from our Golden Apple Award winner, Arthur Guerra's classroom, the furniture that we're piloting right now, that it's kind of like these very mobile tables that kind of fit together so the kids can work obviously collaboratively in groups, but also individually, and we could also have that flexible grouping. Also, I know when we did the tours with folks, we spent a decent amount of time in the multi-purpose rooms. What we've done is we've repainted those multi-purpose rooms, plus we've resurfaced the floors. We said no to the orange, and instead we've kind of gone with more neutral, but also our district colors, blue and white and gray. You see both the Forestdale and the Oak Ridge School mottos on the NPR floors. As is needed to be done from time to time, we've also sanded and recoated both the Forestdale and the Oak Ridge gymnasium floors as well. Something that we're super proud of and super excited, and as I said in my opening day comments this morning, this really kind of makes my heart proud in a whole bunch of different ways, because I see this to me kind of represents sandwich pride, and it's something that, in my humble opinion, has been long overdue. If you guys recall, I want to say it wasn't terribly long ago, maybe in April, we had the 8th graders come, Jeff Duffany's class, and I know Kevin spoke to them as well, and they talked about, wouldn't it be great if we had a new outdoor basketball court? And if you guys recall, it was pretty dilapidated. It was in horrible shape. So we used some of our closeout funds from the FY24 budget to put together this new outdoor court at the middle high school. It's very much similar to the one that's on the town fields at
Morse Road.
a wing, Morse Field. Thank you, Kevin. Very, very excellent surface, low maintenance, but just really, really well done. Then you can see on the right a project that has come to fruition probably after 5-6 years. I know it started, God bless the moms of the elementary PTA, through the Boosterthon, raised money, and then also internally at Oak Ridge through student activities. We were able to pool those funds together and put together a age and grade appropriate outdoor basketball court, which is adjacent to the new playground. So definitely forward progress. I should also note that the crew also, as they do every summer, painted the common areas where there's the most critical needs. So yes, classrooms, bathrooms, ceilings, hallways, both at Oak Ridge and Forestdale. Some of the balconies, the overhangs have been painted. And I know when we did our facility tours, we also looked at the girls' locker room at the high school. That has also been given a facelift through the painting of the walls and the ceiling. To be clear, there's still much more work to be done, but I think in the span of 7 or 8 weeks, the work that has been done has been super, super positive. I do want to point to your attention that there is I gave you a hard copy handout. It's also in the packet. Michelle and Chris have put together a running tab of where exactly we are with regard to those debt exclusion projects. In some places, we've fallen on the positive side of the coin. But again, the place where we've got to turn our attention to has to be prioritizing those HVAC projects at Oak Ridge and Forestdale. I don't know, Michelle, if you want to say anything about those numbers, or?
If you look at the bonded total, which is the 13 million, we're about 46% complete job-wise, and we've used about 52% of the money. So we're not too far off. If you notice, there's a line that says contingency funds, which haven't been allocated to any particular job, so that could cover some of the overages. And there's also $750,000 that'll be a transfer from the sinking fund to Town Hall, so that's for our use too, and that has not been allocated to any jobs as of yet. So we're really not in too bad a shape right now.
Less than ideal, but not as bad as I thought it would be, actually, to be quite honest with you.
Right.
At least personally, just knowing what things cost, having done various things to my house this summer. We jump to the budget piece. To you and your staff, that's a ton of work in 2 months. So I just want to say personally, as a committee member, as a parent of a kid in the schools, thank you to the entire team. I saw Chris at Convocation this morning, and we were talking about the lighting, and I think it's fantastic. It's going to be less expensive utility-wise. It's going to be brighter, better environment for the kids to learn. The curse of it is it's brighter, which means you're going to see where it needs to be painted more, and we talked about that. But I think this is, as the superintendent said, there's more work to be done, but these are solid first steps, and I think we just have to continue to tell the story that it requires continued investment for our kids to maintain these buildings.
Yes,
Soapbox over.
Are the light poles still up?
That work is commencing on Monday. We had a week delay. I'm sorry, Tuesday, because Monday's the holiday.
And you had provided some information on the poles, require 3 dumpsters each pole requires 3 dumpsters when they get taken down. And I looked up how much the steel is worth, and it's about looked like it was about 2 cents a pound. Do we have any sense as to how much money we might get back from the poles?
Do you have any sense yet from Chris?
So we're figuring it's about $120 a ton.
How much?
$120 a ton, which isn't a lot of money when you consider all the dumpsters. 3 dumpsters is not going to be enough. We're looking at maybe 5 to 8. So what the cost of these dumpsters?
5 to 8 dumpsters per pole?
Correct.
Okay.
Because of the way they lay, that you can't fill them up. You can only put so much weight per dumpster. Because as soon as you go over 2 tons, you get an added fee per dumpster. So every dumpster is going to probably go out with double the cost. So an average dumpster is $600. So you figure that cost, you're talking thousands of dollars in dumpsters. So what their plan is once they get it all to the scrapyard, they'll weigh it, they'll get all the measurements, they'll get us all the numbers, and then anything after the dumpster that has to be paid out for will be reimbursed back to us in a credit.
And we trust their numbers?
I mean, it's a state weight, yeah.
Oh, it's a state?
Yeah, it's they have a weigh scale, and then I'll get the numbers when they give me the weigh scale.
Oh, we're dealing with the state on that.
You're dealing with a state weight. They have weighted scales at every scrapyard.
Massachusetts state.
Massachusetts does, and the scrapyards, yeah. What we do is we get a receipt from them. So there's no lying on that. You can't just bring it to some Joe Schmo scrapyard and have them
Okay.
sell it.
So is this different from what was originally proposed, where we wouldn't be looking for any rebate on the scrap? I mean, was it, for example, we're going to get a modest check at some point,
Right.
Potentially.
potentially.
Potentially. Yeah, I'm hoping that, but we don't know. We could be eating 8 dumpsters because they went out too heavy, or the size of the poles, plus the baskets and the lights. They're all going to fill up real quick.
So even if we didn't look for a rebate,
Right.
this stuff would have to leave here.
Correct.
Would that have been built into the
That's built into the
bid?
price. That's built into it.
Those dumpsters are built into
This is all built in. This is, everything it's, the money we're paying out is to get them down and get them off the premises as soon as possible.
So I'd be curious to know how much we get back.
I'm curious too. The metal that those poles are made out of is what I call junk metal. It's really not worth anything because of the kind of metal that it is, the pitting, the deterioration, the corrosion. It's the metal they're gonna, when they melt it down, they're gonna wipe off to the side so they get real metal. That's what we have.
Any other questions or comments? Kaylee?
Just to echo what Kevin said, the multipurpose rooms at Oak Ridge and Forestdale look amazing. And I know that's for a lot of parents, that's their first impression of the school. They spend a lot of time there. It's really exciting to think about like the Scholastic Book Fair and, kindergarten intro night and all these things happening in those rooms. So I'm just really, really excited. Very cool.
Mark it up.
No black souls.
Did I also read that the music rooms were fixed? Did I make that up? No?
Yeah, one of the things that it is on the bulleted list that's in the packet that we're actively planning right now is one of the old band rooms at Forestdale. It's actually a terrific space, but we need to, the idea is that is going to become kind of the center of the Sandwich Partnership for Families. So think about our organization that works with young families, parents that have infants and toddlers and so on as their first entree to the district. It's wonderful space to have things like playgroups, to have informational sessions for parents and so on. So we're planning on contracting that out to convert that space.
Would that also be available to the district after hours?
Absolutely.
Okay. That's good to know. Any other questions, comments on? Again, kudos to your staff, Mr. George, for all the hard work in the short, brief period of time, and the before and afters. We've seen the befores. This is stunning. So thank you for the effort.
Thank you.
Okay, we will move on. Other topics not reasonably anticipated. The only thing I would just put on our radar, because I'm starting to see it, and it may not have any implications for our committee, but the ballot questions, particularly on the one on MCAS, is coming out. And so it would be interesting if time goes on that there might be some neutral party that would facilitate conversation and clarity around both the yay and the nay positions on that. So just to keep that in mind. Subcommittee reports. DEIB subcommittee. Tracy?
Sure. So the subcommittee met this evening before this meeting, and the overall theme was really this notion of belongingness and how it encompasses all aspects of the community and school. So we learned about some PD happening, ideas for bringing together peer leaders at the high school so that there's not the sense of operating in silos, but doing this work together. Some ideas going out about family surveys at each of the buildings and gathering more information. Also working on defining in more detail the mission, vision, and purpose with the DEIB work as the leadership team looks at that, and also the building leaderships. And then we talked a lot about establishing a district-wide committee that would be looking at the language in the handbook to make sure that all of the language is the same, so that as a district, the information is clear and that there's all different perspectives going into that process. So that's really exciting. Dr. Joe brought up the handbook is clear and it's better, and there's more work and continuous work that will go on, forever to make it better and better and better. So there's a real commitment to, really continue sustainable action, and that this sense and work that is happening is really even more than embedded in just particular areas, but in the culture of the school. So that it's just part of what Sandwich schools do and believe and help students become. So that took up most of our time. We had great conversations, are looking forward to meeting again the end of October. I think that's it. But fellow members, anybody have anything to add?
I think you captured it well.
Okay, great.
Any other
No.
committees, liaisons?
Just a quick liaison report, putting on my PTA liaison hat. Very exciting news from the PTA. They are moving forward with a fun run. In the years past, they've partnered with Boosterthon. This year, they are bringing it in-house, which means we will keep a much bigger piece of the pie, which is awesome. That being said, they are actively recruiting donors. So if you own a business or just feel like giving the PTA some money, it all goes to a really good cause. Obviously, you saw the basketball courts. That was a big part of Boosterthon funds from years past. You can go to sandwichpta.com to get more information about becoming a donor. Thank you.
Thank you. Danielle?
Just with the CPAC Special Ed Parent Advisory Council, tomorrow night, we're hosting a kickoff to Back to School Ice Cream Social at 6:30 at Shipwreck Ice Cream. So tomorrow night, Thursday. I know the athletics night, parent night is at 6 p.m., so come on over after. All are welcome. Thank you.
And I'll just do an encore plug for the PTSA. Their first meeting of the year is September 10th at 7 p.m. at the Sandwich Middle High School Library. And tickets for the Halloween Festival will go on sale bright and early at 8 a.m. Thursday, September 12th.
Be posed at your computer.
I think he had a couple extra slides he wanted to show.
I was going to do that during acknowledgements.
Okay, I stand corrected.
All right.
Thank you.
Warrants. and I have a motion to approve the warrants.
I move that we approve the warrants as presented and signed by a majority of the school committee.
Second.
Approved, motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? One opposed? Any abstentions? Abstentions? Okay, it is passes
610.
right.
I'm here for you.
Okay, I'm glad. We're a team. All right, public forum, the second public forum. Does anybody wish to be heard at public forum? Seeing no one, we will close the public forum. Future agenda items.
I do have one. In our annual roster of school committee agenda items, one thing I never quite did when I was sitting in the chair to my right was, just like the select board approves your beach sticker and your dump sticker every year, all the fees that we charge for use of our fields and use of our facilities is something that we should actually approve here. So what I'd like to do, I think this is something for the finance subcommittee to tackle first and then bring to the full committee. So I will put out some feelers for the subcommittee, which is myself, Sue, and Tracy, to get together at a time that we can work with the business office and the facility staff to kind of take a round turn on that, because it just should be structured and then institutionalize that as an annual process.
Joe and I had a brief conversation about that, and I asked him to see if he can pull together a spreadsheet that has all fees so that we'd have the document.
Yeah, they need the us staff to do a little work, but I'll give them enough lead time that they can pull it together, but we'll something we can propose and then approve for, part of the budget cycle. It's something we should do every year.
Good suggestion. Acknowledgements and closing remarks. Any?
Joe, do you want to go first?
So I'll go.
You go.
All right?
Go ahead.
As everybody knows, today was our first day for staff, and we have our annual Convocation Day ceremony, which is just really a terrific way to kick off a school year with a lot of positivity, and just to see everybody come back completely with their batteries recharged. And at the beginning of the convocation ceremony, what we do is we honor 4 employees of the year, one from Forestdale, one from Oak Ridge, and then one from the middle school and one from the high school. So I'd just like to acknowledge these folks, and their respective principals told some really heartfelt stories about how impactful they really are to our kids. So first from the Forestdale, one of our physical therapists on staff, Emily Cataldo, who's just remarkable, working with all of our students, but particularly those who have some significant challenges vis-a-vis mobility. Then from Oak Ridge, Deb Stanton, 6th grade teacher. She's got now, I think she said year 29 now. She is nothing short of amazing. The culture that she cultivates in her classroom is just incredible. I look forward to any time myself and Trish Hill do a walkthrough. Then from the middle school, special educator Amanda Neal, who again was cited by Jeannie for just the connections that she makes with kids, and also her kids' families as well, always keeping those positive lines of communication. And then last but not least, also from the high school, Maria Cahill Foley. Would you say that this is a little bit of a family affair that might have a connection or two with our school district? I also want to say happy birthday to Mom. I just saw that on Facebook, that she's celebrating her birthday. But Maria is also just the work she does as an ELA teacher, but also a club advisor. She's just vitally invested in, her alma mater, but also just in the lives of students. So I just want to say hats off to all 4 of our awardees today. And I also want to thank the 3 of you, Sue, Kevin, and Danielle, for being there this morning. That was great.
It's a pleasure.
I think last year, or last spring at graduation, I said, like, the first time I went as a school committee member, it was good for the soul, and I'm going to keep going even when I'm not sitting behind this table. I'm not sure I'm going to come to convocation but, when I'm out of the school. But being there this morning, again, was just one of those, one of the few good deals sometimes to sit behind this table. Hearing when the names were announced, because they kept it pretty close hold. They do a really good job of getting the family there without telling the awardee they're going to be there, because you could see the surprise on their face. The response from their colleagues was visceral. It was the enthusiasm, the acknowledgement of who they voted for was very evident, and it was very cool, especially Forestdale. That was
That was great.
it was awesome.
Great. And I wanted to give a shout out to Sue. You did a great job with your welcoming remarks, and Joe, great speech today. It was great. The enthusiasm and excitement to see all the teachers, they genuinely were excited to be back at school. So it was a wonderful event. Thank you.
Education's one of the few fields where at least every year you get a do-over.
Yeah.
And it really is awesome, so. All right, can I have a motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn into our next regularly scheduled business meeting, Wednesday, September 11th, 2024, at 6 p.m. right here in Town Hall.
All those in favor?
Need a second first.
Second first, thank you.
I'll second.
Someone's got to keep an eye on
Any
it.
discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It is unanimous. We are adjourned. Thank you.